excited about his talk tomorrow, linking metabolic health and cardiac disease. So, Dave, can you give us a little bit of a sneak peek of what to expect tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll be talking about what's known as the match analysis. We were already doing a study with folks who have very high levels of LDL cholesterol, which is considered a risk factor for cardiovascular disease. We're also scanning the hearts with an advanced heart scan known as a CT angiography. So it can actually detect plaque at a very high resolution. And this match was looking at our cohort against another study that also had folks who got CTAs who had average levels of LDL cholesterol.
Wow. Okay. Now I am pretty excited because when I heard you speak last time and hearing that high levels of LDL might not be as dangerous per se as we think, because coming from the medical field, I'm not a cardiologist but an intensive care doctor. This is Bible. This is gospel, right? So I think some of the content that you'll be covering is going to be, how do I put it, exciting to hear about. Any other projects that you're excited about within your own lab or that you've heard so far at the conference?
Yeah, I mean, and I should qualify, we're still in the early stages with our existing study. I've got to always caveat that it's early on. However, that said, that study will complete next, or at least it'll complete its original scope next month. We will have had the second scans of all of our folks by that point in time. Now, as far as at this conference right now, with other things I'm excited about, I've been impressed with a lot that have covered cancer. There's been a lot more on the topic of mental health. It's always fun coming to the Metabolic Health Summit just because they just have such a huge variety.
Isn't that right? Like we were talking about this earlier with Phil, that you improve people's metabolic health status, and so many aspects of their health can be improved. Your cancer risk, we talk about mental health, obviously with cardiovascular disease, but it feels like every year we're learning more and more in how impactful improving your metabolic health can be.
And for me, I mean, I'm an engineer, so I know we hear metabolic health said a lot, but let's really break it down for a moment. Metabolism is the counterbalance between anabolism, the building up of stuff, and catabolism, the breaking down of stuff. And so you could simplify it as metabolic health is usually a capability of connecting those two and keeping them balanced. That especially comes up with fuel. So if you're fueled, as we are, by glucose and fat, then there's already a sign when a lot of that fuel is building up in your bloodstream that there's a problem with your metabolic health. Well, I'm not surprised at all that if you've got a problem moving fuel around in your body, that's going to affect all these other things, all these other diseases that we associate with it, because your cells need to count on the body to provide what it needs.
Well put, my friend. I am curious because you mentioned you're an engineer. What brought you into this space?
Well, it's my cholesterol jumping through the roof. I saw that I was developing diabetes, like much of my family, and I started looking up how can I avoid diabetes, and I found these forums, diabetes.co.uk, probably heard of them. And they at that time were talking about low carb, high fat, LCHF. This was before keto got as big as it did. And I said, oh, this makes sense, although I am worried eating all the saturated fat, my cholesterol might go up. And on those forums, they were saying, no, that's super rare. Well, then both my dad and my sister got inspired to do this diet with me. Their cholesterol didn't go up, but mine did. And that drove an obsession. I then had to figure out why. And so I became obsessed with learning about lipidology, even though I knew nothing about medicine or science at the time, about anything medical. And I realized that actually the system that moves it around in our body works a lot like a network. And I've worked on networks my whole life. And that made it a lot easier for me to learn. And then at that point, I became obsessed with doing these experiments that helped me better understand how it works. And that's how we ended up with the lipid energy model, which we now have published.
I love it. I love it. Getting a bit of that background story explains the obsession, and really a lot of us are grateful for it because we're that much further ahead because of the work you're doing. So Dave, thank you so much for joining us. I'm really looking forward to the talk tomorrow. I think it's going to be a packed house. For those that want to catch the talk, go to metabolichealthsummit.com and jump on the virtual, use the virtual tag, and you're not going to want to miss it. Thank you so much.